All right, let's talk about something you deal with every single day, whether you realize it or not. I'm talking about the market. From the coffee you bought this morning to the internet service you're using right now, everything has its own hidden set of rules. Understanding these rules is the key to figuring out why some choices you make are practically endless and others, well, not so much. So let's start with a question. Picture yourself in a supermarket, just staring at the wall of toothpaste. There are, 50 different kinds? Now think about when you go home and turn on the faucet. How many companies can you choose from for your tap water? Yeah, probably just one. That huge difference isn't an accident. It's all because of different market structures. And today, we're going to break down exactly how they work. Okay, so first things first, we need to kind of reset what you think of when you hear the word market. It's not just a grocery store or a physical place you go to. For an economist, a market is way more of an abstract idea. It's less about a location and more about an arrangement. The economist Augustin Cornot put it this way. A market is basically any region where buyers and sellers can interact so well that prices for the same stuff start to even out. The key word there is interact. I mean, think about Amazon. It's a gigantic market, right? But it has no single physical location. It just connects millions of people instantly. So what do you actually need to have a market? Well, there are 5 essential ingredients. You got to have buyers and sellers, obviously, and you need something to sell, a product or a service. But here's what's really crucial. You also need a price, some way for those buyers and sellers to connect, and enough shared information for a deal to actually happen. If you take away any one of these, the whole thing just kind of falls apart. To make sense of all the different types of markets, economists like to think of them on a spectrum. So let's start at one extreme end with a theoretical idea called perfect competition. Now, you should know, this is kind of like a unicorn. It doesn't really exist in the real world, but it's the perfect starting point to help us understand everything else. So what does this perfect world even look like? Well, imagine a massive farmer's market. And I mean massive. Thousands of farmers, and they're all selling identical apples. No one can claim their apple is special or better. And anyone who wants to sell apples can just show up and set up a stall. Because of all this, no single person has any real power, and the market itself sets one single price that everybody just has to go with. And that brings us to the most important takeaway for perfect competition. Because no single seller can influence that price, they have no choice but to accept it. They are what we call price takers. Makes sense, right? If one farmer tried to charge you more for the exact same apple, you just walk to the next stall. Simple as that. So how does the market decide on that one price? It's that classic dance between supply and demand. Just take a look at this table for our apples. When the price is super low, say 100 rupees, tons of people want to buy, but very few farmers want to sell. If the price is really high, like 500, it's the opposite. The market naturally finds its balance, that sweet spot, right at 300 rupees, where the amount of apples for sale perfectly matches the amount people want to buy. And this is what that sweet spot looks like on a graph. Don't worry about all the numbers. Just look at where the 2 lines cross. The demand line slopes down. People want more when the price is lower. The supply line slopes up. Farmers want to sell more when the price is higher. And that single point where they meet right there at E, that's called the equilibrium. That's the price the market sets, and it's the price every single seller has to take. Okay, so we've seen a world with a huge number of sellers, all powerless. Now, let's flip the script completely. What happens when you have a market with only one seller? And that brings us to the other end of the spectrum, the monopoly. The name really says it all. Mono means one and poly means seller. This is the market that explains why you have just one choice for your tap water. The features here are basically the mirror opposite of perfect competition. You've got just one seller. They offer a product that has no close substitutes, so it's pretty much their way or the highway, and there are huge barriers, maybe legal or technological, that stop anyone else from even trying to compete. That gives this one company total control over the supply. And here is the single biggest difference. If a seller in that perfect world is a price taker, a monopolist is a price maker. With absolute control and zero competition, they can set the price to whatever they want to make the most profit. So, in the real world, most markets aren't one of these two extremes. They usually fall somewhere in the middle. And one of the most common of these in-between markets is something called an oligopoly. The name's actually pretty simple. It comes from the Greek oligo, which means few. So this is a market that's dominated by just a handful of really big companies. Think about mobile service providers or the big airlines.
It's not a monopoly, but it's definitely not a free-for-all either.
The key word to understand here is interdependence. Because there are only a few major players, every move one company makes, like dropping their prices, forces the others to react. It becomes this high-stakes game of chess, where advertising is a major weapon, and it's still really hard for new companies to get in on the action. All right, our final stop is the market type you probably interact with the most. This is the world of brand names, flashy commercials, and what feels like endless choice. It's called monopolistic competition. Remember that toothpaste aisle? Or think about things like soap or coffee or shoes. They all do this same basic thing, but the companies behind them compete like crazy to convince you that their version is different, that it's special. That whole strategy has a name, and it is the most important idea for understanding this market: product differentiation. So, what exactly is product differentiation? It's basically everything a company does to make its product seem unique, even when it's really similar to all the others. It could be branding, packaging, design, anything to carve out their own little mini monopoly on their specific version of that product. And how do they convince you their product is different and better? Well, they spend a whole lot of money on what economists call selling costs. This isn't the cost of actually making the product, this is the cost of promoting it. All the ads, the sponsorships, the fancy packaging, anything designed to create demand and build that brand loyalty. So let's put it all together. Monopolistic competition is kind of a hybrid. It has a lot of sellers, and it's pretty easy for new companies to jump in, which is just like perfect competition. But because of all that product differentiation, every product is a little unique, giving each company a little bit of price-making power, just like a monopoly. And they all lean heavily on those selling costs to stand out. So there you have it. We've gone across the entire market spectrum, from the powerless price takers in a perfect world to the all-powerful price maker in a monopoly, and all the strategic battlegrounds like oligopoly and monopolistic competition that exist in between. So, the next time you're shopping or just looking around, try to spot these structures. Where does your internet provider fit on the spectrum? What about your favorite coffee shop or the brand of phone you're using? Once you know what to look for, you'll start seeing these economic forces playing out everywhere. From the seemingly perfect to the incredibly powerful, every single market is playing by its own set of rules. And now you know how to spot them.